Welcome to Photos and Travel, a show that introduces you to fascinating places around the world. Please welcome our host and tour guide, Jonathan Van Bilsen.
Hello and welcome to this episode. I've recently returned from a trip to Jordan where I visited the ancient city of Petra. The place is so amazing that we recorded an entire show on it a few months ago. The reason I mention this is that Petra is the last of the new 7 wonders of the world that I've been able to visit, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to dedicate a show to all of them. The original wonders of the world were chosen by a few individuals. However, in 2007, a massive global survey was done and tens of millions of people participated in what they thought would be the new 7 wonders of the world. The age of each monument does not matter. However, they all have to be man-made. I'll go through each one in the order of my visit, right after these messages.
At PP Print, we can help with so much to offer. Just ask. We've got you covered. PP Print, where experience pays off.
Pet Value has a fleet of services to help you and your pet live your very best lives. Visit Pet Value Port Perry for all of your pet's needs. Pet Value, your pet, your store.
The first wonder we will visit is the Colosseum in Rome. This amazing structure was built of concrete and sand and is the largest amphitheater ever built. Construction began under the Emperor Vespasian in 72 CE and was completed 7 years later under his successor and heir Titus. The Colosseum could hold between 50,000 and 80,000 spectators, having an average audience of 65,000. It was used for contests by gladiators and public spectacles such as mock sea battles, animal hunts, executions, reenactments of famous battles, and dramas based on classical mythology. The building was later reused for housing, workshops, quarters for a religious order, a fortress, a quarry, and a Christian shrine. Although partially ruined because of damage caused by earthquakes and stone robbers, the Colosseum is still an iconic symbol of Imperial Rome. It is one of Rome's most popular tourist attractions and has links to the Roman Catholic Church, as each Good Friday, the Pope leads a torch-lit Way of the Cross procession that starts in the area around the Colosseum. The Colosseum is also depicted on the Italian version of the 5-cent euro coin. When visiting Rome, there are of course many other sights worth seeing. A trip to the Trevi Fountain where you can toss a coin to have a wish come true is a must for visitors. The 135 Spanish steps are well worth the climb and are named after the Spanish embassy in the square, although they're very French in design. Visitors are no longer allowed to sit on the steps as they have become too crowded, and Italy is trying to protect its monuments. If you have time, a trip to the Vatican to see St. Peter's Basilica is well worth the visit, especially if you're able to tour the Sistine Chapel, the ceiling of which was painted by Michelangelo. It took 8 years to paint, and contrary to popular belief, he painted it standing up. The concept of him laying on his back originated with the 1965 film The Agony and the Ecstasy. The Basilica of St. Peter's is of course the center of the Roman Catholic Church. Catholic tradition holds that the Basilica is the burial site of St. Peter, chief among Jesus' apostles, and also the first bishop of Rome. St. Peter's tomb is supposedly directly below the high altar of the Basilica. For this reason, many popes have been interred at St. Peter's since the early Christian period. A church has stood on this site since the 4th century BCE, but the present basilica was built between 1506 and 1626. The reason this spot was chosen was apostles Peter and Paul traveled to Rome and met their martyrdom there in 64 BCE. Another stop in Rome is the Roman Forum, a rectangular forum surrounded by the ruins of several important ancient government buildings. It is at the center of the city of Rome, and it was originally a marketplace. Continuing on our adventure to visit the 7 wonders of the world, our next stop is China and its Great Wall. This truly is an amazing structure worth seeing. Initially, it was built as a series of sections across the historical northern borders of ancient China as protection against various nomadic groups from the area to the east of the Caspian Sea. Several walls were built from as early as the 7th century BCE, with selective stretches joined together 200 years later by the first emperor of China. Today, the wall stretches 8,000 kilometers or 5,000 miles, and it would take you 18 months to walk its length. Some sections have been ravaged over time, but it has been rebuilt, expanded, and beautified by different dynasties. It passes near the metropolis of Beijing, as well as deserts, mountains, and farmland, most of which has remained unchanged for centuries. Many tourists visit the Great Wall from Badaling, as did I, because it's the most accessible spot if you're driving up from Beijing. It's only 80 kilometers away from the capital city. The portion of the wall at Badaling has undergone restoration, and in 1957 was the first section of the wall to open to tourism. Now visited annually by millions, the immediate area has seen significant development, including hotels, restaurants, and a cable car. Other purposes of the Great Wall have included border controls, allowing the imposition of duties on goods transported along the Silk Road. The defensive characteristics of the Great Wall were enhanced by the construction of watchtowers, signaling capabilities through the means of smoke or fire, and the fact that the path of the Great Wall also served as a transportation corridor. During its construction, the Great Wall was called the longest cemetery on Earth because so many people died building it. Reportedly, it cost the lives of more than 1 million people. Contrary to common belief, the Great Wall of China cannot be seen from the moon unless you use a telescope. This myth started in 1932 when Ripley's Believe It or Not claimed the Great Wall could be seen from the moon, even though spaceflight was decades away. It is even questionable whether the Great Wall can be seen from a close orbit with the unaided eye. The wall is not a single continuous wall built all at once. It is a network of segments built by various dynasties. It is common to hear that the mortar used to bind the stones was made from human bones, or that men are buried within the Great Wall to make it stronger. However, the mortar was actually made of rice flour, and no bones, human or otherwise, have ever been found in any of the walls. And just to be clear about the length, the main wall is around 3,500 kilometers or 2,100 miles long, with an extra 3,000 kilometers or 1,800 miles of branches and offshoots. Our journey takes us to North America and the Mayan ruins of Chichen Itza in Mexico's Yucatan jungles. In Spanish, Chichen Itza is known as El Castillo, or the castle, but it is also known as the Temple of Kukulkan. This massive step pyramid that dominates the center of the Chichen Itza archaeological site in the Mexican state of Yucatan was built by the pre-Columbian Maya civilization somewhere between the 9th and 12th centuries CE. It served as a temple to the god Kukulkan, the Maya feathered serpent deity that was also worshipped by the Aztecs and other Mexican cultures. The pyramid consists of a series of square terraces with stairways up each of the 4 sides to the temple on top. Sculptures of plumed serpents run down the sides of the northern balustrade. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the late afternoon sun strikes off the northwest corner of the pyramid and casts a series of triangular shadows, creating an illusion of a feathered serpent crawling down the pyramid. The theory has been very popular, but it's questionable whether it was planned originally. Each of the pyramid's 4 sides has 91 steps, which, when added together, and including the temple platform on top as the final step, produces a total of 365 steps, equal to the number of days in a year. The structure is 24 meters or 79 feet high, plus an additional 6 meters or 20 feet for the temple. I managed to climb the stairs to the top and back down again, but found it extremely difficult, as the steps are quite high. Shortly after my visit, a woman fell to her death, and the climbing of the steps were closed to tourism. Most visitors to Chichen Itza stay in the resort area of the Mayan Riviera near Cancun. I would recommend an overnight trip if you're going to visit the archaeological site, because it's a 3-hour bus ride and the hot temperatures tire you out. There's also so much to see at the site that you'll want to spend a fair bit of time there. When you're in the Yucatan area, another great site to visit are the ruins of Tulum. This town on the Caribbean coastline of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula is known for its beaches and well-preserved ruins of an ancient Mayan port city. The main building is a large stone structure called El Castillo, or Castle, and sits perched on a rocky cliff above the white sand beach and turquoise sea. Near the ruins is a coastal area with mangroves and natural limestone sinkholes. Of course, one of the main reasons people visit this area are the beautiful beaches with white silver sands and a never-ending amount of all-inclusive resorts. Cancun is composed of 2 distinct areas: the more traditional downtown area, El Centro, and Zona Hotelera, or Hotel Zone, a long beachfront strip of high-rise hotels, nightclubs, shops, and restaurants. Cancun is also a famed destination for students during university spring break periods. After these messages, we'll continue exploring the 7 wonders of the world with a visit to South America and the ancient Inca ruins of Machu Picchu.
Hello, I'm Terry Voss from Voss Independent Grocers. It's been a year since the pandemic started. I want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all of our customers for their understanding, their loyalty, and their friendliness. I will admit it's been a trying time, but we have come this far only because of you, our valued friends.
Welcome back. Today we're exploring the new 7 wonders of the world, all of which I've been fortunate to visit. It was truly one of the best experiences, and many people have asked me which one I enjoyed the most. I can honestly say they're all unique in every single way. The next one we're going to visit lies deep in the Andes Mountains in Peru. It is the 15th century Inca village of Machu Picchu. The ancient ruin is situated on a mountain ridge 2,500 meters or 8,000 feet above sea level. It is located in the Cusco region above the Sacred Valley, about 80 kilometers or 50 miles northwest of Cusco. Most archaeologists believe that Machu Picchu was built as an estate for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti. It is often mistakenly referred to as the lost city of the Incas and is the most familiar icon of Inca civilization. The Incas built the estate around 1450, but abandoned it a century later at the time of the Spanish conquest. Although it was known locally, it was not known to the outside world until American historian Hiram Bingham brought it to international attention in 1911. There's a great deal of controversy over Bingham's discovery and excavation of this site. He has always claimed there were no treasures found at the site, but several years ago, Yale University, Bingham's alma mater, confessed to possessing many of the valuables Bingham had discovered. Yale's position was, because they funded the expedition, they should own anything that was found during it. The Peruvian government recently began litigation, and it appears Yale University will be returning more than 40,000 artifacts to Peru. Machu Picchu was built in the classical Inca style with polished dry stone walls. Its primary structures are the Temple of the Sun and the Room of the Three Windows. Most of the outlying buildings have been reconstructed in order to give tourists a better idea of how they originally appeared. By 1976, 30% of Machu Picchu had been restored, and restoration continues today. The Peruvian government has cracked down on tourism, as there is far too much damage being done to the site. In 2000, a camera crew was filming a beer commercial, and a piece of equipment broke and fell onto the altar stone, chipping a piece off it. The site receives about 2,500 visitors every day, most coming by rail from Cusco. The excursion takes about 3 hours on a relatively comfortable train, and then a 45-minute bus ride to the top. For the more adventurous, you can hike from Cusco along the Inca Trail, but be prepared for chilly nights in small tents perched on damp, narrow ledges. The 4-day hikes are designed to arrive at Machu Picchu just prior to sunrise, and to watch the sun come up over this ancient site is spectacular. Machu Picchu was a spectacular visit, and I certainly enjoyed my stay in Peru. I found South America to be a beautiful part of the world, and my next new wonder was the gigantic statue of Christ the Redeemer at Corcovado on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. Seeing this marvel from a distance does not give you the appreciation of its sheer magnitude, and a trip up the mountain is a must. The Art Deco statue of Jesus Christ in Rio de Janeiro was created by a Polish-French sculptor and built by a Brazilian engineer. The face was created by a Romanian artist. The statue is 30 meters or 98 feet tall, not including its 8 meter or 26 foot pedestal. The arms stretch 28 meters or 92 feet wide, and by comparison, it is approximately 2/3 the height of the Statue of Liberty. What makes it so special is its location at the peak of the 700 meter or 2,300 foot Corcovado mountain in the Tijuca Forest National Park overlooking the city of Rio. A symbol of Christianity across the world, the statue has also become a cultural icon of both Rio de Janeiro and Brazil. The total weight is 635 metric tons, and it's made of reinforced concrete and soapstone, and was constructed between 1922 and 1931. Christ the Redeemer was built using reinforced concrete and has an outer shell of 6 million soapstone tiles. It is believed that the workers who made these tiles occasionally wrote notes on the back, meaning this iconic landmark is full of hidden messages. Due to the statue's mountaintop position, it's prone to lightning strikes. Prior to the FIFA World Cup in 2014, lightning struck and broke one of the statue's thumbs. The original design of the statue was different from what we see today. It was intended for Christ to be holding a globe in one hand and a cross in the other, rather than two open arms. The statue was not actually built in Brazil. It was first made in France in clay pieces. These were then shipped to Brazil to be remade with reinforced concrete. Housing prices in Rio de Janeiro have increased simply if the property has a view of Christ the Redeemer. Apartments with even a slight view of the statue are higher than those with the same location and size but no view. The light-colored stone used to build the statue was taken from a quarry near the city. This stone, however, is in short supply, and restoration works have to be done using different types. As a result, stone in darker shades is slowly replacing the original. Each year, Christ the Redeemer is visited by nearly 2 million people. The record number of visitors to the statue in a single day was a huge 14,000 visitors during Easter of 2011. The best time to go is the early morning hours during the week before 8:30 a.m. or late afternoon after 3:30 p.m. There are fewer people and it's not as hot. A cog train takes people to the area at the base of the statue, and then there are vans that will take you to the top. I would recommend you bring food, as the cafes and restaurants are very pricey and have extremely long waiting lines. Our adventure to explore the new 7 wonders of the world continues, and our next destination is the center of India and the city of Agra, where one of the most spectacular monuments in existence is located. I'm talking, of course, about the Taj Mahal. I had the privilege of staying within half a kilometer of the Taj, which is perfect as there's no vehicular traffic allowed within a kilometer of the site. The hotel offered me transportation by donkey or golf cart, and as I've ridden several donkeys in various places around the world, I chose the more luxurious means of transport. Agra is a spectacular city with a population of 1.5 million. It is known for its textile manufacturing, which over the years has caused a fair bit of pollution. The government decided to clean the Taj Mahal and regulate the air output of all nearby factories. The building has now been brought back to its original white marble, and visiting it is a fantastic experience. It was commissioned in 1632 by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan to house the tomb of his favorite wife, Mumtaz. The tomb is the centerpiece of a 42-acre complex which includes a mosque and a guest house, and it's set in formal gardens bounded on 3 sides by a historical wall. Construction of the mausoleum was essentially completed in 1643, but work continued on other phases of the project for another 10 years. The cost of the Taj Mahal complex is an estimated 32 million rupees, which in 2021 would be approximately 700 million US dollars. The construction project employed some 20,000 artisans under the guidance of a board of architects led by the court architect of the emperor. Shah Jahan had 15 children, and his love for his wife, who passed at a relatively young age, saddened him. He consequently decided to build a monument for her as a final resting place. During construction of the Taj Mahal, Shah Jahan decided he would build a second palace on the opposite side of the river. This one, however, would be made from black marble, and the two would become the most splendid monument on earth. One of his sons, however, felt that the country could not afford to spend that much money on the project. Another son disagreed with his brother and said they should allow his father to do as he pleased. The 2 sons argued, and one ended up killing the other. The surviving one had his father arrested and jailed in the Agra fort about a kilometer from the Taj Mahal. Shah Jahan spent his remaining days watching as they completed the Taj and saw them transport his wife's body into it. Sadly, he never had a chance to set foot in it while he was alive. His remains were interred in the tomb upon his death. The Taj Mahal is a shrine for Shah Jahan and his wife, and several buildings have been constructed as mosques where people can pray. In front of the building is a pool with fountains, and directly in front of that is the bench which Princess Diana made famous by having her photograph taken there in 1992. It is officially known as Lady Di's chair. And that brings us to the last of the new 7 wonders of the world, the ancient city of Petra, deep in the heart of the Jordanian desert. As I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate to go there recently and thoroughly enjoyed the experience. After a long 2.5-hour drive through the desert, I was glad to check into the Movenpick Hotel, located directly across the street from the archaeological site of Petra. I entered the site when it opened at 7:30 in the morning and decided to walk rather than engage a touristy horse, donkey, or camel. Fortunately, it was fairly empty, as the cruise ship crowds from the Gulf of Aqaba do not arrive until noon. Many people think Petra is the beginning of a civilization, but in fact, it is the end. The people who originally lived here were nomads, known as Nabateans. They traveled across the Arabian desert, living in tents. The Nabateans traded along the Silk Road and decided to settle in this well-protected valley as early as 300 BCE. Their ability to work with water was amazing, and they carved troughs in the walls, channeling water from mountain runoffs into huge cisterns. Their ancestors today still live here and are known as the Bedouins. After a 2-kilometer walk, I arrived at the unbelievably spectacular Treasury Building. The structure is believed to have been the mausoleum of a Nabatean king in the 1st century. It is one of the most popular tourist attractions in both Jordan and the entire region. The Treasury Building and most other carved structures are primarily facades, which have been created by amazing artisans. You can see the holes on each side of the building where poles were inserted to build scaffolding. Carving on the rocks started at the top, and they worked their way down. When they were about half complete, they were able to stand on the rubble and continue working. Petra lies in a basin which runs from the Dead Sea to the Gulf of Aqaba and is surrounded by mountains and cliffs, which has given it its vantage point during Nabatean times and has kept it hidden for centuries in later years. The Valley of Petra is 7 kilometers long, and I walked a total of 30,000 steps or 21 kilometers. The 30-degree temperatures meant drinking lots of water, but the experience was amazing. There was a time when Petra was settled by the Romans, and many ruins from that area can still be seen. At the end of the valley is a mountain which has a monastery built on top. There are 850 uneven steps leading up to the monastery, and if you take your time, the trek is quite doable. Once you're at the top, the view is spectacular. And that's our whirlwind tour of the 7 wonders of the world. I must admit, upon reflection, how much I enjoyed visiting and exploring each one. If you have an opportunity, I would certainly recommend you add these to your bucket list. Included among the finalists that did not make the list were the pyramids of Egypt, the Moai statues of Easter Island, the temples of Angkor Wat, the Parthenon in Greece, and Stonehenge in England. For Photos and Travel, I'm Jonathan Van Bilsen. It's been my pleasure to be your tour guide today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. If you like this program, please click the subscribe button and you'll never miss an episode.
Want to know what's happening in Skugog? News and lifestyle, changes in business, and all the entertainment information you'll ever need. Plus, each edition has a new Photos and Travel article. Look for your next copy in your mailbox.
At thestandardnewspaper.ca, we try to show you the lighter side of our community workers and shed some light into their work in our community. With human interest stories on how the community gives back and reporting on legislation which affect us all, the Standard News is raising the standard in your community.